Okay, so welcome back to another teacher talk, and this time we have all the elective teachers with us, or like more of the performing arts and more like special electives, I'd say. So we'll jump straight into the questions. So first is, are you a performing artist, or do the skill that you teach outside of school?
Yes, when a gig comes my way, and if I have time and if I'm available, I'll take a gig. But recently, because of the coronavirus, no one's able to perform. But before the coronavirus, I was performing. I was taking a few gigs as a performer.
My focus is usually in pottery and ceramics, which we don't do in school, but I also do painting on the side.
Oh, cool. Okay, Miss Karagianis?
I have not actually been performing for about 3 or 4 years since I have small children. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. But before that, before I had them, one of my latest projects, I was in a Johnny Cash cover band and I played June Carter. And during the summer and winter break and things like that, I traveled all over the United States and performed with my auto harp as June Carter in a Johnny Cash cover band. And I did that with my husband who played guitar, and it was really fun. But I have been not doing that for the last couple of years.
Oh, that sounds very interesting.
That's really cool.
Yeah. By Mr. Bashi?
All right, so I teach computer science and robotics, and if I have time, I do some like programming on the side. I do like web development, creating websites and things like that. So if you look at Hale's STEAM website, I created it, so that would be like a sample work for me.
It also sounds really interesting. Okay.
So, am I next?
Yeah.
So I teach dance and theater, and you can always see me dancing with my husband in my kitchen. So if it's been a hard day, he'll come home and he goes, "Oh, you know what? We better dance for a few minutes." We'll dance in the kitchen. But we also take lessons and do some ballroom dance. I was on the ballroom dance team when I was in college, and my major was musical theater. And like Miss Karagianis, I toured the United States in many shows doing musical theater. And when my family started coming along, even my oldest children were in shows with me that we did when I did Annie and Annie Get Your Gun. And then it got to be harder to have the family do it. It's a hard life to do, working every night and doing a family. But we always do a little bit together somehow. We go to nursing homes and sing to the people who are there, or try to take our talents in. And now my grandchildren are doing it. They play their violin, they go with us and sing to people in convalescent homes. So we try to keep it going a little bit.
That sounds also really nice. But aren't you also the theater teacher now?
I am.
So so that's also how I incorporated with your theater, right?
Right. Yeah. Now some of my dancers are choreographing a few numbers for our theater. So we'll see how we do that online.
Okay, so next question is, what inspired you, or who inspired you to do like what you do?
That would have to be all of my teachers. Um, it would have to be all of my teachers, especially teachers that were actual teachers, not just professional musicians. I would tell them the stories that I would have about teaching, or the troubles I'd have when I was teaching, and a lot of people were supportive and told me, you know what, you'd be a really good teacher. You keep asking a lot of good questions, so you might want to explore that avenue of music, becoming a teacher.
I had two of the best art teachers when I was in high school, and they convinced me to keep going. And then the whole time from the summer after 11th grade through college, I ran a summer art program at a sleepaway camp. So I did that for 2 months every summer, and I've tried other jobs, but I always went back to teaching.
It sounds really cool.
So for me, my parents said that I came out singing, and I sang my entire childhood and my parents were really supportive. They're also both like side musicians. And they took me around to many different auditions and things when I was really little. And then I had a great middle school choir teacher who really believed in me and encouraged me to do auditions and helped me outside of school with auditions. And then I had the same thing happen in high school. I had a very, very encouraging choral teacher that really encouraged me and helped me outside of class with my audition pieces. And it just became so much of who I was by the end of high school, my junior and senior year, that everybody on campus knew that I was going to go be a performer. So I studied opera in college and then became a music teacher. I just knew that teaching and music were going to be my lifelong loves, and that's what I'm doing.
Okay. That also sounds very interesting.
My turn?
Yeah.
All right, so I took a class in high school, a programming class. That was about 3 years ago, and computer science was totally different. I took a QBasic programming class, and I really loved it. I got high grades in that, and my teacher was like, this is something probably you want to do in the future. And I have a brother who is really good at computer programming, so he also encouraged me and helped me a lot. So I took some more classes, and I did computer engineering for my bachelor's degree, and then I got my master's in computer science, and I love it.
Also very interesting. Okay, Ms. Ball.
So I grew up in a home where we played a lot of music, and this will tell you how old I am, because we used to have records that we would play. And my parents, when I was just tiny, would play records over and over, and we would just keep playing them and singing as a family. And then they were never professionals, but we always had a lot of music in the home. And my parents got me involved in tap lessons and dancing, and I loved it. So when I got into school in theater, I loved musical theater. I loved the dancing, singing, acting, and that's kind of the way I went. I had a fabulous teacher that gave us an opportunity to do all different kinds of shows. And then when I went into college, I thought, oh, what do I want to be? I almost went into nursing, but I loved the entertainment so much that I went into that. But there were so many weird people in entertainment, and I go, oh my gosh, I want to show them that regular people can go into this major also. And I just had so much fun. I really did. It was like a family, and I danced during high school and did a lot of ballroom dance and just enjoyed that and took it on from there.
Yeah, that's also really interesting. Okay, so next question I have is, how has the pandemic changed your electives?
It's definitely more difficult, but it doesn't mean that because it's more difficult that the subject is now obsolete or invalid. What I'm really grateful for with the way things are going is that I'm able to teach a lot of the things that we don't have time to do in our electives. So typically when we're in my classroom, we're usually getting ready for the next concert or the next performance. But because performing is not something that's going to happen soon, we're able to focus more on music theory, focus a lot on the composition side, the more creative side of creating music.
Yeah.
What else? We're also able to focus on just developing more of the fundamentals that the kids need and the students need, so that when they get back to actually playing together in the classroom, whether it's next year or in the future, they have those skills to be able to play well. So we're not losing any time, we're not losing any ground. The only unfortunate part is that we don't get to play instruments side by side or together or perform live music, which is obviously a lot easier. But
Yeah.
given the
So
situation that we're in, we're still able to provide, I'm still able to provide students the fundamentals and the skills they need to be able to perform later together.
yeah.
For me, I have some of the same students that I had last year and the year before, and they know that I am not a big fan of computers at all, and I barely know how to use them. So this has been especially challenging. Ms. Dabashi has helped me a lot because every time I have a question, I email her and she always tells me what to do. Trying to do visual arts on the computer and not knowing what supplies my students have at home is the hardest part. So I
Yeah.
have to rearrange everything so that they can do it with just a pencil and paper if they have nothing else.
Oh, for me, I would say it's a mixed bag. There's been lots of things that I've learned that when we do go back in person, I will continue with the technology that I have learned in this situation. And I know the kids have learned a lot. There's all kinds of resources out there that I didn't even know existed. But as far as like the actual performance and connecting with an audience part, which is one of the biggest things we work towards all year, that's not really happening. So that's been a big hurdle for all of us to kind of make peace with, myself and my students, and knowing that what we're doing is okay and what we are doing is going to take a lot longer. So the projects that we do and some of the things that we are still carrying over from the classroom are just taking twice as long. It's just the way it is. So for example, my piano elective, I used to be able to go through and check everybody's hands and listen to a piece within 10 minutes. And now it takes me like 45 minutes to get through each kid to get the camera on and make sure their hands are in the right spot and listen, like be doing both at the same time. So it's been really, really challenging in some regards too. But again, I think it's a mixed bag. I've learned a lot and trying to take those positives with me in the future.
Yeah, I get that.
All right, so for me, I had a good experience actually. Since everything's virtual, there are things we can do that we could not do before. Like I was able to participate in a professional development with the MIT and Amazon Future Engineer program, who are all out of state. If it wasn't virtual, I couldn't do it. And I was able to bring a lot of resources to my class. As far as my students, they're doing fine. I had to send some supplies home. For example, my robotics team had to come and pick up their robotics field and set it up in their garage so they can participate in a virtual robotics challenge. But for the most part, it's been a positive experience. The only thing I'm missing is just seeing my students face to face, being in my classroom, the social aspect of it. But other than that, it's going fine. So
I feel like
enjoying doing something new.
I feel like when you're doing a lot of things on computers anyways for your elective, like for coding and stuff, it would anyways be a lot easier to do it online because you're still using your own computers and stuff. Okay, Ms. Ball.
So it definitely has been a learning curve. I'm like Mr. Sonderling. I'm not the best on the computer, but I've learned a lot. And I've shown my students that I'm a lifelong learner also. As far as dance goes, it's really hard. I have some students who are in tiny apartments and they're trying to dance and do leaps, and it limits them to what they can do. And some of my students are shy to do it in front of their parents, where I think they would do more if they were in our beautiful dance room or on the stage. So that is tough. That's hard. And there's something exciting about a live audience, whether it be your classmates or your teacher cheering you on when you're dancing or doing theater. So we miss that live element, but we've been able to learn how to do some things on Zoom. It's hard because they hear the music different in different places. We lag, but you know what? We're all doing the best we can do under the circumstances. So we love what we're learning, but still we'll be excited when we can get back and maybe do some things live.
Yeah. Okay. So next question is like, how do all of you collaborate? So like, for example, maybe like Miss Ball and Miss Karaganis, or Miss Karaganis and Mr. Cruz, they do like a collaboration with their two classes. So how do you all collaborate if you like through these times, or even back in school? How would you guys collaborate?
I collaborate a lot with Mrs. Karaganis, the choir teacher, because she's also a music teacher.
Makes sense.
And yeah, but as far as when I collaborate with Miss Ball, or the art teachers or any of the other elective teachers, we're always collaborating on more creative ways to make our classrooms more interesting, to make our content more interesting and accessible to our students, because everybody needs the arts in some
Yeah.
form or another. And even if Miss Ball hasn't a good idea, I can always find a way to apply it to my class. Or if Mr.
Yeah.
Rios or Mr. Sonderling has a good idea, I always find a way to kind of make it my own and apply it to my class.
I know for me, since I'm visual arts, there are some of the 6th grade teachers who teach 6th grade visual arts also. So we collaborate together, and then as a team, we work together when we have our electives meeting, because everybody brings something different to the table. So we all work together with that. With the visual or the online learning, when we started that, when we had our first team meetings, we kind of let Ms. Dabashi and Mr. Mooney's take over, and they were showing us a lot of things that we did not know how to do. So it's a within our whole team, even though we all do something totally different, we all bring something to the table, and we've been helping each other out a lot.
Yeah.
I don't have really too much to add to what Mr. Sonderling said, just exactly what he said. We all have very different disciplines, so it makes it more challenging than maybe like perhaps the English department or math department, where they have some common things that they're teaching within each grade. We all have very different subjects, but like Mr. Sonderling said, we do have common things, especially like with the distance learning when that happened. How do we do this on Schoology? How do we do this on email or whatever? That we came together for. And generally in person too, we also would have our VAPA showcase and things like that we would be working towards together. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Yeah, so again, the same thing Mr. Sonderling and Ms. Karaganis said, same thing for me, but I just want to give you one example of how the electives department collaborated for last year's virtual graduation. So I was in charge of putting the video together, and I reached out to different teachers in the electives department, and they were awesome. They got me like songs for the graduation, the national anthem, and you know, they were able to just work together to create just a great experience. It was our first time doing a virtual graduation, so we had no experience, but I think we worked really well together to just create that experience for our students.
Yeah.
So we're always working together and trying to help one another. That's the neat thing about being elective groups together. For instance, Mr. Sonderling, when we came up with a theme for our performances, Ms. Kiraganis and I, he was so supportive and had his art students do beautiful backgrounds that we could put on the walls. And we always try to be thoughtful of one another, because we need different dates to perform and doing things. And so we're always giving and taking and trying to help each other do better. So that's the neat thing about the teachers at Hale. Ms. Dabachi helped me put together my dance numbers and made it possible so that we could get it out for other people to see. So we're always working together and trying to help one another. Ms. Kiraganis found out some things online and shared them with the rest of us. Mr. Sonderling does that. We're always, Mr. Cruz, we always want to try to help each other be the best we can be. And that's the neat thing. We're good friends, good teachers that support one another.
Yeah. Okay, so now the other questions are with my other reporter, Josh.
Alrighty, so now I'm gonna be asking you guys some like fun, silly questions. So the first question I'm gonna ask is like, what do you guys do in your free time?
It's pretty hard to come by these days. If I have any free time, I'm usually exercising. I have a mountain bike and I hit the trail after school. But other than that, free time is kind of hard to come across these days. I'm sorry, I don't have a better answer.
Yeah,
No,
it's all good.
fine. It makes sense.
Yeah.
In my free time, I do a lot of baking and gardening. Those are my two main things.
This was fun.
Sounds pretty fun. Do you ever do anything with Mr. Rios for gardening?
I have not yet.
Okay.
I currently don't have free time because I have young children. I'm sure it'll come back at some point and I will get back to reading and gardening and things like that. But right now I chase children around my house.
Yeah, it's the same thing for me. When you say free time, I was like, what free time? I have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old that are like all over the place, and I barely have free time. But if I do have free time, I love reading. I love shopping. So that's pretty much what I do. I also like to learn about new technology. So if I have free time, like when I go to bed at night and I have maybe like 10-15 minutes, I just read articles about new technology that is out, and that's my passion.
That sounds good.
I've seen Miss Tabachi out shopping, so I know she likes to shop. I don't have a lot of free time, and I should because my kids are all raised, but I worry about grandchildren and calling children. I love to cook also. I love to make things for my family and learn new things that way. That's always exciting. I love to travel, so if there's ever any time, it's just so fun to travel. And one other passion I have is genealogy, family history. I love to find out about my roots and stories about people, what they went through, hardships and making it. And that makes me think, you know what, I can get over this COVID. Look what they had to go through to survive. And I love finding out. I have a big book I put together of stories of my ancestors. And sometimes when I feel sorry for myself, I read their stories and it gives me strength just knowing what I came from.
All right. I have one last question. Is there anything that you wish you would have known as a first-year teacher?
Oh man. There's a lot of things I wish I knew. I kind of just learned them along the way, and I like to think that I'm a fast learner, so I just don't make a big deal out of it. I guess it would be very community specific. I've taught at another. I used to teach high school before teaching middle school, so and I used to teach high school in a different neighborhood, a different area that was not here in the valley. So if I really had to pin it down to one thing, it would have to be more about the neighborhood and the community, being able to get more knowledge about that so that I could teach better to the students that I have in front of me.
That
Yeah.
sounds really good.
Stress management, because being online is a whole different kind of stress than anything I've experienced in all of my years in the classroom.
I agree.
Oh my gosh, there's so much. I don't even know where to start. Can you come back to me?
Yeah.
There's so much.
Okay. Yeah, so I started as a math teacher, and I've never went to school in America. I went to school in a different country, which is absolutely different from what is here. So I wish like I knew more about how school system works in America when I started teaching math, but I've learned a lot since then.
Yeah.
Maybe to not be so hard on myself and to just learn to It's all okay. It's going to be just fine. You don't have to do it all at once. I think I tried to do too much at once and to save all my students, and I can't do that. But I kept trying to, and I probably will continue to try to, but just to know that you just do the best you can. You need to set limits, and you need family time. It can't be all school, and you have to have balance. And that was hard for me to learn, is balance. And
Yeah.
I'm just going to piggyback on what Ms. Ball said. I think that was probably one of my biggest lessons was just management of time. I spent in my first couple years of teaching, I would spend half a Saturday and all day Sunday getting ready for my teaching week. And then I just over the years learned to scale it back more and more. And obviously, as you get more experience, you learn more things and you have stuff in your bag of tricks that you can pull from. Where in the beginning, you're kind of inventing the wheel constantly. So I was able to scale back on that, and that was really, really hard. So that would be my biggest thing as a first-year teacher.
Thank you guys so much for joining us for this episode of Hale News.
Thank you all for
Thanks for having
coming
us.
out.